Okay, so what's up, guys? We're on the second part of this out of 3, and there's a few things I missed of like basic building from last video that I'm gonna go over right now. I'm a little sick, so I do not sound like super enthusiastic. Sorry about that, but so if you want to like experiment with something but you're not sure if it's worth it or not, and you have like a really good core, you have something going and you want to see, can I push this team to the next level or not? What you can do is actually make like 2 or 3 versions of a team. Make a copy or whatever, and you can see which one does better. That's super helpful. It's good to not be like super overconfident with just quirky shit. It's I don't know, just something I highly recommend players to make duplicates with like some changes and stuff, and see which one you like more. If you're testing, that is. If you don't test, is what it is. You can just analyze both versions versus like the VR or whatever, or just the meta, and see how good it is. Also customize your sets to your play styles. Maybe make it a bit anti-meta. At the end of the day, you're gonna be the one making or clicking the buttons if you're building for yourself, so might as well make it so that you have a leg up on everyone else. If everyone else is super weird about like a certain mon or a certain like EV spread that you don't like, don't force yourself to use it just because everyone else does. On that kind of note, you don't need to use every mon in the meta. You'll have mons that you don't like, and that's fine. Okay, something else I gotta say is to not use set guessing as a crutch. A lot of players will be like, oh, well, I'll just set guess this mon once they build a mediocre or bad team, and usually that just leads to some fundamental issues. Set guessing is a guess after all. It's just a fucking guess, bro. You could be wrong and just lose the game because you're like, hey, I'll just set guess a top tier mon. Set guessing obvious mons, like I think some SMT or some SS teams kind of have to set guess DRMG, but that's not like super duper hard, because it's like, oh, if the team is slow, then it's Scarf, and if it's weak, then it's banned, right? That's like pretty easy. But once you start trying to guess like Zard sets, that's where I start to disagree, man. Especially versus top tier mons, don't make it so you have to fucking set guess top tier mons consistently. That's just gonna be a headache for yourself. That should be like a worst case situation, honestly. With that in mind, kind of just take your time, dude. You can make a core that beats all the top tier mons. I believe in you, bro. Scroll through all the moves, or look for mons with certain move combinations if you're trying to find someone with a specific niche. Open up maybe like a mon that's maybe underexplored, like a Celebi or Clefable, and see, hey, can I do something with this that people haven't done before? That type of thing is always goes a long way if you make it work. Think about RNG when you're building. Think of it, I think I said this already, but basically, people kind of forget when they're a lot of the time EVing. They'll just be like, oh yeah, no, it's not a big deal. But then there's secondary effects, or they have to hit a focus blast and get a roll, that type of thing. RNG stacks, like hitting a focus blast high roll is like impossible. In my opinion, if it's like a 50% type of RNG thing, then I'd just like to say it's a loss, honestly. Unless it's like a really irrelevant mon. They're trying to be. Ask other people about EVs. Sometimes you might EV something super well and you think you're the GOAT, but you actually fucked up and it sucks. Or it just has some big issues that you can fix. Maybe not big issues, but like small or medium-sized issues. If you find someone that's better at EVing than you and you want some help, go fucking ask him, dude. Think about how your opponent perceives your team, whether there's actually weaknesses that don't look good versus your team, or bonds that look good versus your team but are actually not that good versus your team. And think about having multiple layers of synergy. That's all I gotta say for this like intro part. We're gonna do set building and then EVs and then creativity. So yeah, let's get into it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Dom Showdown so you can see part 3.
So we are here for the second part of my 3-part 1v1 team building guide. And in this video, I'm gonna go over set building, EVing, and creativity. timestamps will be in the description for getting to each of those 3 different topics. Setbuilding kind of leads in EVing because EVing is its own beast, but I'm starting off this video with Nalei, and we are talking about set building, and I think that's something she's done really well. And part of set building is kind of finding your style, but also knowing what's like optimal at the end of the day, because you know you can like EVing or like accomplishing a task a certain way, but if you're taking maybe like 2 or 3 moves for like one mod, that gets kind of absurd. So you should be definitely kind of learning from your past teams and sets to where you know what is worth doing with the set and what isn't.
If you don't have like a flow to set building, you're just going to be like shooting all over your team builder and you're going to have nothing.
What do you mean flow?
I mean, you can kind of just like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, but it's just like so unproductive.
It really is.
If you don't have like a methodology to things, you're not going to make any good sets.
Yeah, okay. So I totally actually agree with that, because so say I'm gonna have on my screen like I'm loading up Charizard, Mega X, and Oras. So when you think to yourself, okay, I have an idea, I have a vision with this set, you should like do the thing right then, so you don't lose your idea. So if it's, for example, something like, I don't know, like say like Rock Tomb Charizard, you should put in Rock Tomb Charizard and then like fiddle with your EVs and all that, so you can really like figure that out. Because if you kind of just sit around like looking at moves, looking at the stats, and just like playing around with random calcs, like where's that even gonna get you? Like you're gonna use like quick attack Charizard or something, and not like the actual good thing, because part of it is having that that vision for sure.
Yeah, so like when we're talking about being productive and getting things done quickly with that, I think that the best thing to do often is to just like go down a threat list or a viability rank, see what a given set idea can be. See if you have that like Rock Tomb Charizard, you know, find out what you can use it for, and then from there you want to like make the most of it basically. And then sometimes ideas won't work out, so you'll have something that's like completely outclassed by another mod. That happens like most of the time, I feel like. Or you just want to be aware of that, because you don't want to build a set that has no purpose.
Yeah, and you need to have like a purpose. That's like a thing, because like anyone could use, I don't know, Rapidash or Sand Slash, but what do those do? I feel like the most important thing is having a niche. Like who cares about Vikavolt? It's just a slow bad electric type. But if you ascend like Bird Poop and run like Thief Tapu Koko that like actually starts doing things in tournaments, like he had an idea with that, and it totally worked out, I think. And I'm gonna look back at my notes. Yeah, and another part of set building is you don't have to like reinvent the wheel, really. People here, I'm gonna pull up. Okay, so people will do like this, and I'm not screen sharing, but basically I'm putting Jaboka Berry on my Crustle and then just like giving it like 6 EVs, you know, all the spread out things. You don't need to be that flashy, like genuinely, like.
No, it can be really, really simple sometimes. Let's see.
And when it comes to simple things, I feel like some of the best techs, honestly, are like the things that you kind of can put on any mon, like Toxic, Sub, Protect, Encore, Disable, I don't know, Will-O-Wisp, Bulk Up, Calm Mind, Laser Focus, just shit like that.
Yeah, I feel like in particular, Encore, Disable, and Taunt are incredibly splashable, and when you put them on mons that they're not usually on, they can get a lot done.
Yeah.
You just have to be conscious about what you're going to beat with them, and then design the set around that.
Also, like counter and stuff like that.
Yeah, that too.
So basically, I'm gonna look at my notes first a little bit more. So okay, yeah. So I think once you have a vision in mind, something you should immediately ask yourself is like, So maybe you have the Rock Tomb Charizard and you have like a semblance of the EVs, and you should think to yourself, is this actually like worth using? Like genuinely?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because, or does this have like too much opportunity cost? And because there's some sets where it's like, in theory, if you're getting like these perfect matchups, it's great, but you're dedicating like 400 EVs to like this really niche thing, and that's I do not like laser focusing in on certain EVs and like using a ton for them. I don't know. I personally like HP a lot, which means that they have like really wide use. HP has a lot of wide use. That's my style. That's my type of thing. But I found that it'll give you like, even in like games where you'll have like really bad matchups, it gives you like this maybe 30% out. It's like, oh wow, I can live this move. Okay, that's worth considering for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's the same thing with attack and special attack. A lot of times you'll see situations where like you can dump like 112 into special defense to live this. But the opportunity cost a lot of the times is that you're missing out on a lot of matchups that you don't see when they're not running purely, whatever that you expected. There's like so much variability in what people can do. That sometimes, unless you're looking for something that's very relevant or it's a very small investment, you just want to dump it into like attack or speed or HP, I can feel like a lot more wins that way.
Well, okay, I dislike dumping in speed, personally. Me and Potato were talking about it.
I think you gotta be intentional.
Oh, well,
there's
yeah. So if there's certain like magic numbers in OS, I'm very familiar. I don't know like anything about them in other tiers, but in OS there's like a 220 where like a lot of things start creeping around that range, and you have like this like 243 range, which is like above Manaphy, and then you have this like kind of 270 range, and then you have like this 310 328 range, then you have 339 range, just shit like that. You have like certain, and you can like have like these weird arbitrary creeps. Like sometimes if I'm speed creeping, I'll have like 28 speed, just so I can like my Mawile will outspeed most Mawiles, like no questions asked, unless you're fighting like a super duper anti Mawile.
And then something that'll do with that a lot is that like I'll calculate the best roll on something, and then whatever leftover I have, I'll creep beyond the creep. So like, I'll creep a base 60, but then I'll have like 20 extra EDs, so I'll outspeed it by like 5 points, and now you're beating most of them, whereas before you were beating like anything that you were to put 8 EVs in speed, so.
And like we kind of alluded to earlier, I feel like the best techs are ones where they have like so many practical uses outside of like your kind of limited like I guess idea, because I'm not trying to like super duper jerk myself off here, but weakness policy Victini, I wasn't even thinking about half the shit that shit beats. I wasn't thinking about skill swapping a Volcanion and getting water absorb. I wasn't thinking about like skill swapping Heatran so you can plus 2v create it. I was barely even thinking about Gyarados. I think I was not really thinking about Gyarados that much. I think I was thinking about like,
I'm gonna jerk myself off even harder, and I'm gonna say that I cannot relate at all, because anytime I design a set, I know everything that it beats right off the bat.
Well, it depends if it's a third or a first, in my opinion, because something like weakness policy Victini was a third, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, I beat these things now. But I wasn't struggling with Heatran, I wasn't struggling with Volcanion, so those things just weren't something I was super concerned about because it was a third. I feel like if you're doing thirds, that's when you're going to find that type of thing out the most. Or like think of like your like Bull Cup Zera, right? Bull Cup Citrus is like, I feel like there's so many matchups where that comes into play, and not just like,
oh yeah, on paper it has like okay matchups, but in practice it has absolutely fucking ridiculous matchups.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
it's so broken.
Certain things like that you can't like possibly track every single thing that it actually like beats in actuality. And I also feel like with new players especially, it's going to be very hard to keep track of all the different sets of things that you're trying to beat. So you want to go for like generally good, strong things that beat a lot, even if you're not like 100% sure on like the specific interaction in a given matchup.
It's better to be like generally good than hyper focus on one or two matchups.
Yeah, because like I've had situations like I started running Specs Clefable in when Eblurb started playing Classic.
Ew.
And then in ORAS, and then it started showing up like mid PL, that type of thing. I kept using it as a third over and over, and it wasn't really picked, it wasn't really sent out most of the time, so it wasn't really on people's radars. Like, it's for like a lot of stuff like Slowbro and Manaphy and all that, but sometimes you won't fight, Slowbros or Manaphy with that type of team, and that's fine, As long as the set pulls its weight in other matchups, it's really not the biggest deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is a time and place for a very specific niche sets, but I feel like as time goes on, they're even less relevant. Because the thing is that even if you're preparing for someone super hard in the tournament, people are starting to be more diverse with their Pokemon, I think. Because when you bring more things, it's impossible to prep for you specifically that way.
That is
if you like overinvest in a specific lure, you can lose so much.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna like super duper go over that, and either before this or after, I don't really know, but
Okay.
people will absolutely laser focus in. I can't count the number of times I've been like prepping for the same teams and same mons over and over, and then the person I prep for doesn't fight them, or they don't even fight anything like remotely close. Like, don't put yourself in situations where it's like you only beat a few mons. And something that is like totally off topic from this, I feel like we've kind of discussed what we've discussed, but specifically if you want like something that you can really like open the team builder and like actually experiment with, I feel like the the legendaries with like base 100 stats.
Oh, mythicals, yeah.
Mythicals, they can do anything. If you want to like start making quirky, interesting, cool sets, you should probably start with those, in my opinion.
Yeah, those are a really good place to start. Like I remember, I made a Celebi set earlier this gen. It was Leech Seed, Psychic, Sucker Punch, Nasty Plot, Weakness Policy. It sounds like the most vile garbage, but it did shit. I don't know, like there's just stuff like that where you can, they have ridiculous move tools, perfect stats all around. You can collect them for anything. And I think they're especially good for practicing EVs, even more than sets.
Yeah, for sure. But when it comes to sets, they also have, like these really weird, good move tools that, for example, Sucker Punch Celebi. And for example, I mean, this isn't useful, but did you know Manaphy gets U-turn and knockoff, or just stuff like that?
I did.
But
yeah, it's weird. You can do stuff like that.
And in SS, I think like all of them get Encore, maybe, or like most of them. Maybe Manaphy doesn't.
I think so.
Actually, no, Manaphy's not released, yeah. But that's a really good place to start when it comes to teching, mostly in EVs, I'd say, because when you have something that says open as 100, like you can just go anywhere. Like it's like, oh, I can invest in all max defense and then see where that goes, or max special attack, or like all of them. You could do that 5 EV stuff, which is actually I think I was looking the other day, I had a 6 EV Victini in ORAS, and it's like really cool, but it's unfortunately slow because it is my speed Victini
before.
Yeah, that's
and
like
Victini
something.
and Mew in particular can do fucking anything.
Yeah.
Physical, special, defensive, you name it.
I think it's one of the most important things is also item. So you should be thinking about, okay, I have this certain goal of I want X to beat Y, so I can either spend a shitload of EVs or this item. And what I've done in the past is made sets where I have 2 different versions of the same goal, and then I'll look after it and I'm like, okay, which one's better? And usually one of them is complete dog shit and the other is flames. But sometimes there can be, really minuscule differences. That's worth, going up to you. I recommend doing something like that where it's like, okay, especially if you're newer, it's like, okay, I have this idea and I'm not like totally confident on how I should execute it, but I can see what works, That's very
You can
helpful.
like pull up the team builder with like 5 different variants of the same set. And then
And-
you can, take a look at how they match up against different stuff. You can look at the calcs, you can just test them even too. And see how it works, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you and me can agree on, here's a list of really, like, items that you should be thinking about. Citrus, weakness policy.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of other heat items.
For sure.
I guess Custap, I mean, that's kind of normie. But an unexpected Custapmon is, like, dangerous. Because it's getting an extra hit that you're not expecting. So, like, weird Custap shit is kind of like I remember, as I literally said earlier, what the fuck is Custap Celesteela for? But if you really think about it, why can't Celesteela run Custap?
Yeah.
If it's versatile,
And then I
it can
think
do whatever it wants.
Some other like, good surprise items are Life Orb, Mental Herb, Rocky Helmet,
Helmet,
and
yes!
Leftover.
I was thinking about it. Yeah, I love Helmet. I am
Helmet is
a
really
Helmet
good.
fan.
It's really, really good.
Don't like look at like stupid shit like Adrenaline Orb. Like, I feel like some people will like fucking. Oh, and Resist Berries. How could we forget about Resist Berries? Resist Berries
right,
are
all of
broken.
them.
Resist
Literally
Berries
all
helped
of
me
them.
actually become like a heat builder. I was like spamming those in like PL2 because I'm like, oh shit, these exist. I can use something that is not Choice Band, Choice Scarf, Life Orb. I can use Resist Berries. And I guess Key is cool on like weird stall. Gems and Black Red are really
Key
good.
Moringa, of course.
Yeah. I would take a look at like certain of those anti-meta items that like you kind of see the top players use over and over and over and over, and it's for a reason, Because I think like Resist Berries, Weakness Policy, Citrus, etc. They're so splashable. Like Citrus is cool.
You
Yeah,
can get
yeah.
on some of them is
Absolutely.
so worth.
And
Like-
Citrus is cool for these situations where it's like EVing for this 2 KO is just annoying and I don't want to do it, so I will put on Citrus because I don't really need another item. That's definitely good.
And when you don't like need another item, stuff like
Yeah.
Citrus and Lum is so good.
Yeah, Citrus has saved my ass multiple times. Don't use. I mean, okay, when I've gotten really crackhead, I've used like no Endure Custap like randomly. That's more of a.
Oh, I do that too.
I
mean, I don't do it randomly though.
no.
I think that's another
don't
where
do
you
it
should be
randomly.
very careful about it.
Yeah, no, that is something like you should only be doing if you're like ridiculously advanced and you know exactly how a specific sequence is going to go. Like I was doing
Yeah, I don't recommend that for anyone.
I was doing Custap Togekiss. I would give Ela Bandit team with Custap Togekiss with no Endure.
Oh god.
Because if Greninja is Ice Beaming or Hydroing, you live, and that's fine. They put you in a Custap range. And if not, they're Torrent, which I think fucking beats you. But, whatever. Not a big deal. My opponent was not using a Torrent Greninja at that time, so it was all good. And then I think synergy with your like specific moves, like, or your specific like item and EV combination, or like move and item combination, like bulk up Citrus, Wisp, weakness policy, like reflect light screen weakness policy. That is something that is good because you don't want to be making these janky sets where it's like, wow, I really wish I had another item right now, or wow, this move is useless. Why am I even using this?
Yeah, and you've also got to like bring that back to purpose. So you want them to work together in a way
Yes.
where it's gaining specific matchups.
Yeah,
basically.
because if your item and move are working together, that's like so frustrating to deal with. Like you're like, oh shit, this person really, they outbuilt me, they have this like epic combination that is totally working here. But when I mean, there's certain mons that like they don't really like need in their item to work at all times, but like I don't know, dude, Citrus Berry, like that shit is very applicable a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially just like very Pokemon that are mid all around. They're not super strong, they're not super bulky, they're not super fast. I feel like that's where Citrus excels.
Yeah.
It just kind of grabs a ton of matchups. randomly.
Or boosting sets like CM Citrus, bulk up Citrus. I mean, I think I said bulk up
yeah,
Citrus
exactly.
2 times already, but
Like bulk up Lando with Citrus is
Yeah.
high key amazing.
AV's cool as well, but AV is
That's kind of a normie item, but yeah, it's good. I use it.
But people don't like fully like people don't go Ravon mode and just have like these insane AV ideas. I feel like I don't know. We were talking about Ravon earlier today and his AV spam. That shit is honestly fascinating. Like if you really have like a out there idea, it's like, wow, I want this mon to just not die to special moves ever. Then, you know, you can look at that.
I got it.
I just think that set building is honestly for me best when it's my third mon. When I'm like just looking, like my back's against the wall and I'm like, oh my god, does this core even work? And then I'll find like a really sick third that like has strange ass attributes. Like, I don't know, Icy Wind Encore Gardevoir. And that shit's super cool.
Yeah, I've heard
Because-
that a lot too.
Those moves have like see, that's another example of the like these moves having insane synergy. Like Icy Wind Encore is sick. Also some risks or some text, like I'm showing Scarf Rock Slide Dino on the screen. That is a very like low commitment, high, like a low risk, high reward type of tech, because most people know how you play Zard versus Dina. You know, don't reg or don't mega, because otherwise you're just gonna die to a dragon move. And you know, there's some people who run rock moves, but when that was first getting popularity, it was just like kind of an auto win versus a lot of Zard teams, which is like just sick. To have your some one move just make a huge difference in a specific game. Also, another example of like move synergy is when I made sub disable Gengar with Wisp Hex. Like all of those moves work together, all 4 of them. You sub, disable, Wisp Hex. You use all 4 moves against your opponent. Like that is such insane synergy.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like in Gen 8, I had a Gengar that was Endure, Salak, Disable, Pain Split, Shadow Ball.
Yeah.
So against Choice Mon, you would Endure, Disable, Pain Split, Shadow Ball in that order. And it beat any Choice Mon.
Yeah, no, I got sauced by Alolan Ninetales and Ninetales countless times on like stupid old ass SS ladder. That shit was really frustrating.
Oh yeah. Love that. So
Yeah.
I just say like, yeah, be intentional, have purpose, and consider opportunity costs.
Absolutely.
Are the big takeaways.
I feel like some people simply do not consider opportunity costs when they build their sets. Like,
It's so important.
and even if you're epically seed teaming their most used mon, like, I don't know. And some people have mastered
Is it worth
opportunity
it?
cost. Like, you could theoretically run like some sort of SS Prim that does not have, or that does not beat Heatran or something like that. Like you could if you really wanted to. And only like GGOPW could pull that off, honestly. Everyone else would just get roasted. But yeah, if you're not like super duper comfortable with the metagame, I would not suggest, or not super, if you're not super comfortable with set building yourself, I would not recommend like these super duper specific type of things.
For sure.
But I encourage all, or not, maybe not all players, but like most players that know what they're doing, to make their own sets and not use a set comp, because I don't know, I just feel like the set comp,
Together specifically to the team, you can get a lot of value out of that.
yeah, and I feel like the set comp is basically, you know, it kind of just depends on like whoever's running, it's like how they like to do things. So it also is an advantage to build your own sets, because you know your opponent's going to be calcing and outplaying, you know, this set from the sets comp, because you know that's what everyone runs, right? But once you start, you know, making your own sets, your opponent doesn't have access to that shit. So that's also an advantage to that. Also, yeah, just don't be a slave to the sets comp. It's a very useful resource at first. Once you start like truly like getting into your own style and building your own stuff like from scratch,
then it's more of like a calcing cool, if anything. And like the sets comp isn't the worst thing in the world, don't get me wrong, you know. It's not like you can't ever run standard sets, you know. But just mindlessly, just like copying, pasting sets from the sets comp is not something you should be doing. You know, certain people will like to overbulk for stuff. Like, for example, I think SM, the Meloetta that people spam, sucks. I think it's way too bulky, not strong enough. Like, I constantly see these games where it lives at 24% and then does no damage back, and then you lose the game. I mean, that's my style. I don't like these ridiculously bulky setup attackers. Like, I don't like SpitF Drum X in any gen. I don't like it at all. And I don't like, you know, something like SMLO where you just, you know, all your like points are putting in HP and defense and SpitF, and then you don't do shit back. Cause like killing things is actually good, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I don't know what else to say without repeating myself now. I'm just gonna remind the viewers to be purposeful. But I think I've done that 74 times so far, so.
Okay, I have another idea that I just thought of. What do you think about, like, put mons that people never use, for example? What about, like, I'm looking at the list. What about, like, SS Crocodile, SS, oh wow, this is ORS. But what do you think about, like, stuff like Crocodile, or maybe, like, I don't know, a Rotom fan? Do you have any advice for, like, if you have an idea for this mon? Do you have any advice about that?
Oh yeah, that has like so much value. In like most of my tournament series, I'm bringing probably like one mon on average that like no one's ever seen before, basically. Because people don't prep for that shit. They can't. You can't prep for 700 Pokemon. You can only prep for the good ones. So if you do that intentionally, you can get some really good matchups with them. So when you're trying to build with one, what I would recommend is to quickly go over its moves, its stats, and basically find the Pokemon that its potential niche would line up with the closest that are used. And then you want to figure out what that Pokemon has that the top ones don't have. And then you want to figure out what matchups those gives you. And then you want to tailor the set around that niche.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few,
like hundreds of sets like that.
I feel like there's a few ways to approach it. For example, I want to talk about you brought a Nidoqueen in World Cup Finals, I remember, and I'm a Nidoqueen fan.
Oh yeah.
I when I saw that, I smiled. I'm like, oh my god, there's a Nidoqueen.
Thank you.
And Nidoqueen is a perfect example of a mon that has like quite a few like very specific attributes. Yeah, you know, Nidoking exists, but Nidoqueen has, you know, bulk, and like if you just play around with a calc for like 2 seconds, you can like figure out like, okay, Nidoqueen lives this move over Nidoking, and you can either like look up, okay, I want this type. I'm gonna talk a lot about type in this guide because I feel like when I'm thinking of like, okay, let's look at Delphox and Oras, for example. I'm kind of getting all over the place, but like it has like one small thing over Zard Y. Like it's like Zard Y that beats Garchomp. Like congrats. That is like one small thing, and it's important to note like, okay, that's its thing, you know. But is that like really a thing worth using? Like a Delphox, you're gonna not use the best mon in the tier by like so far, you know, Mega Charizard, and you're gonna use a Delphox instead. I feel like that's just not worth doing. But something like Nidoqueen has like infinite potential, if you ask me. I feel like a talented creative builder could make 20 Nidoqueen sets in SS1v1. And that's like a thing where
in practicality, I have to disagree.
I'm a little over exaggerating, but I could make 10 easily. I don't even play that tier.
No, if you made 10, 7 of them would suck.
I never said 10 good sets, okay? But you know, Nidoqueen has interesting typing, so you can run Weakness Policy, you can run CB, you can run Specs, you can run Scarf, you can run Resist Berries, you can run Weakness Policy, you can run Custamp.
and it has like taunt, it has sucker punch, it has like all the coverage moves you really need. You know, that's how I think of it. Nidoqueen is someone like you should be thinking about like, okay, why am I using a Nidoqueen? You stop it on your build, I'm like, okay. So if it beats like this combination, that's cool. And you should always like think about, okay, what does this have over, you know, prominent poison types like Naganadel and SS, for example. Nidoqueen probably does plenty of things over Naganadel, but if Naganadel
spend a lot of time figuring out where you're best putting things to use and where the overlap is. So like I can do like Life Orb. I want to get like a good physical attack off. But then at the same time, that might not be worth it. I actually ended up going Specs, because I couldn't hit the special benchmarks that I needed to without that. So I just gave up on those physical things. A big thing is that you have to pick and choose. So you like give up on some things to solidify other methods.
And
because you need to be consistent.
And part of good team building is making the right calls in that sort of way, where it's like, okay, my Nidoqueen, believe it or not, cannot do everything. So let me just make a set where I focus on maybe it's strengths versus the meta, maybe it's the strengths versus your opponent. Like if you just find a random mon that has like strangely good mon or matchups versus your opponent, like why not? You know? If it's just like a type thing, if it's just like a stat thing, if your opponent is Radu and just builds bad teams, like it really kind of is open, you know. Set building is not something that there should be like these extremely rigid rules for, but I'd say if you're newer, don't like try to make like a Vikavolt work or a Seismitoad work. I don't know. I don't think there's really a lot of point in that. You're not really learning a lot, but
yeah, I agree with that.
Something that's like SS specific, if you ask me, is like SS really feels like pushing the top bonds to their limits. And that's something Potato has told me about. So if you're like a new player, go make like a new Urshifu, a Sylveon, a Tapu Fini. I mean, I don't think Fini has like any options at all, honestly. But you know, Specs came out of nowhere. Specs came out of nowhere. You know, there's always that sort of thing. I remember like last LT in the garbage SS meta, I gave Card this like magic coat. Okay, it was like the weirdest Sylveon I've ever seen. It had like three unviable moves, but it had like really good matchups. I don't know. It was like a Sylveon that tried as hard as it could to beat other Sylveon. No, I think it was sub magic coat Sylveon or something like that. That just really like needs to beat other Sylveons desperately or something like that. Push top mons to their limits. Your set might suck. Who cares? Your set sucks. Build another good set, or at least try. You know. It's not something that you need to just instantly like figure out how to do, you know. Like some players will use, top players will use these like weird monsters like I never thought of that before, and it's because, you know, like no one has, maybe for good reason. Maybe people just because like it's hard as a player to like venture off the VR or venture into the never used tier, you know. That's not something that comes like, extrinsically to a lot of people.
I feel like specifically for new players, the most important thing is to just try.
Yeah, try.
It's really easy to get caught up in a cycle where you make something and you spend hours on it, and it's like, wow, that really sucks. I'm so discouraged. Alternatively, you can make 10 sets relatively quickly and find out what's good. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
Once you're better at it, then you can start pouring more time into specific ideas. But until then, you should honestly just fling shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and
spend less time, do more things.
Yeah, and if you are flinging shit at the wall, that's not the worst idea, because I've had plenty of times where like I'll just like make some unviable mon and then like I like win games with it like randomly. I don't know, Lantern, that's kind of an example. That was just like a funny thing. that I laddered with like 3-4 years ago, and then Kentori whipped it out in PL and destroyed James, that type of thing.
Oh yeah.
And something that's I'm gonna put an example on the screen. So something that I think it was like Work Up, V Create, Bolt Strike, Shadow Ball, and Victini, and it has like 6 EVs. I'm not gonna like leak my EVs, and I can find them if I want, but I don't really care. But I made this like extremely complicated Victini with 6 EVs, and then it went nowhere. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, why did this go nowhere? And then I realized, okay, this Victini is minus speed, so it is slow as shit. It is not like it's not good at activating the weakness policy because it is slow and like not that bulky with no wisp, and it doesn't hit hard immediately. You have to work up, and then you're probably slower than your opponent because you're minus speed Victini, and it's just like this set just does not work. Like it made I felt like an actual 200 IQ genius making it, and then I was like slower than a Kieran Black and friendly, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. That's kind of all I have to say about that. Basically, also watch other people bring cool sets and see if you can learn or apply anything about that. Me and Nalei are just spewing words at you at your face. Maybe that does nothing. But if you're like watching, this person pull out this crazy set, and you're like, wow, that set is cool, and then try to think like, why did this set work, or something like that. That's really
learning from examples is super valuable, because there's a lot of concepts that are very hard to learn just by experimentation. A lot of things you have to learn by seeing other people do it and then trying it yourself.
Yeah, because this is like a stupid example, but like when I make weakness policy sets, they feel like so ridiculously natural to me because that's something I've been doing over and over and over, and it was kind of inspired by me playing the Oras ladder and fighting weakness policy Kieran Black, and that kind of got me thinking, like, is this set really good? Is this a good thing? And then got my brain moving, and then I keep experimenting a little bit. I don't think weakness policy is very good in SM, but once I ventured back to Oras, I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely make this work.
Yeah, and the thing with weakness policy specifically for me was that when I first started playing 1v1, I thought that weakness policy sucked so bad because your opponent could just play around it. But once you start getting better at things, you can start sequencing things in a way where if your opponent does play around weakness policy, they lose anyways, and that's where the item gets a lot of value.
That's where you have these like checkmate scenarios, like Victini skill swapping Voltaignon's water absorb, and then what are they gonna do? Overheat you? Okay, sure, dude, do that. Overheat my Victini. But it's something where I don't know. And there's some weakness policy sets that can be played around, but if you're making like a set like that, you should be thinking about, okay, what would a tournament player click versus this Mon? Like maybe a ladder player Ooga Booga just clicks. The super effective movement doesn't kill because you epically EV'd your Mon, but sometimes there's plays that your opponents can make that cover everything, They could like click substitute or whatever on you, and then you're fucked because your Victini V creates or something like that. It's like, think about how your opponent plays versus your set as well. Okay, I don't know why I'm saving this point for the very end. It is like very important. When you're set building, you need to be thinking about how your opponent is going to like click the buttons around your Mon. That's honestly one of the most important things, because
a tip I have for new players with that is to make flowcharts.
Yeah.
Physically get out a pen and paper and write what you're gonna click and what your opponent's gonna click, and just run through the matchup that way.
I've done things
so
like
it's
that.
really hard to keep track of on the fly.
Yeah, I've done things like that. Like I'll like, my personal thing is like paste spin. I like to like just like make paste spins, but because I've been in scenarios where I'm like, okay, what if this Mega Gyarados is burned, but it spams DD? It's not proccing my weakness policy. Is that an issue? You know, that's something you need to be keeping in mind, because you know you can get so caught up in the I had this cool tech, I win the game, haha, GG, and sometimes you just don't think about like multiple plays that your opponent can make, and if they're calcing, then maybe they know, maybe like for example, if you're like SM burning or something like that, SM burn does 0 damage, so you don't need, there's not like huge rush to start instantly attacking while burned. You know, you could set up your DDs or SDs or coils or whatever, you know. So yeah, I'm totally done. I have nothing more to say.
No, that's all for me too.
All right, thank you, Nalei.
Well, see ya, and have.
Okay, guys, what's up? I'm here with Potatochan, aka Jacob, and we are talking about EVs, because that is the thing I'm the worst at when it comes to team building, like by a lot. So yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people think they know, but they don't actually know super well.
Yeah, I remember seeing like Euphonos' recent Specs Cresselia post, and I'm like, these EVs, they like pain me. They're not optimal. Like, how is like one of the best DVP players, like, what was it? He was in Classic Finals, right? He doesn't even know how to like properly EV. Like, it's such a simple Pokemon, just 2 benchmarks on either, on like physical and special side, and then some special attack invest. I don't think it even had speed. I don't know how you messed that up.
And then there's Ecstatic Cold, who literally just does not EV his mons, just runs max and
Dude,
everything.
yeah. When I had to prepare for Ecstatic Cold for Ladder Tour, I ran like, I would creep like 0 speed Pokemon and it would work. Like, I creeped like 0 speed Haxorus and then my Pokemon was faster. It was the greatest.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, to go over basic stuff first, you're going to want to put your nature in the highest raw stat. This is something I think most people have heard before. One thing I didn't realize until recently, and Dom said he didn't either, was that this means you should be putting your nature, when I say raw stat, I'm talking about that stat that shows on the right side of the team builder, right? Not just like, Tapu Fini has 130 special defense and 115 defense. This doesn't mean that if you're investing in like both physical and special sides, you always invest special defense, right? If you're investing in a more physically defensive Tapu Fini and your physical defense ends up being higher, you're going to need to run a bold nature rather than calm.
I thought it was highest base stat, like,
yeah,
always.
Me too. I learned that so recently, like 2 months ago or so. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I always wondered like why sometimes it would just, that rule would not work. Because I would always test my EVs first. I often will copy my Pokemon, paste, and just I'll test 2 versions.
Yeah, 2 versions. I recommend that highly recommend making 2 versions.
It's a really good way when you're not sure. Like, don't just trust the rules, right? It's very easy to just test that to see which is optimal. I'm going to be getting into another case where that is optimal as well for testing later. And then secondly, 0 HP and like a bunch of defense is better than the same defense being put into like HP and then no defense, right? For most Pokemon, you're going to get more bulk if you run defense rather than HP. The exceptions to this case are Pokemon with a really low HP stat and high defenses. Like if you're EVing for Crustle taking a physical hit, usually max, you can just go HP for that. It's optimal. Sometimes like a bit of defense might be more optimal, but in most of these cases, we're talking a difference of maybe like a few percent in a damage roll. So in those cases, I like to just go full HP, because the argument is you may be saving like a slight percent from rolls, but then consider all the different special rolls that could be happening if you're running 0 HP versus like a ton of HP.
Yeah.
Right? So it's sometimes it's like technically optimal if you don't have a specific special benchmark, I guess, but I really don't like that argument. It's Sword Shield, like especially in Sword Shield where I feel like people run anything. You know, you never know what you're going to run into. Maybe the argument is stronger for like ORAS and SM, where the meta is a bit more stagnated, I guess.
I think HP is fucking good as shit. That's like something I like.
Yeah.
I prefer like a lot of HP, and then I'll like, for example, I'm gonna show the people how to EV their Charizard Mega X for Mega Lopunny. So basically, you know, you go to Zardex for Lopunny, right? And let's say Adamant,
and then so it is 248 HP and then 68 defense. Actually, it's it's 68 defense, yeah. And then you can go like maybe like I don't know, like 100 HP and then like 156 defense, and then go a little higher. And I mean, I think that's like optimal if you want as much defense as you can possibly fucking get. But like something like Megazard and Oras like wants as much HP as it can fucking get. So like maybe the difference of like 20 to 40 defense EVs, what that puts you at like say for example 100 HP is just not going to be as helpful as 248 HP Zard, which can get good rolls versus a lot of the tier. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an entire like 148 HP difference. It really does make a difference for like the very slight difference you're getting in physical defense. Yeah, I really don't think it's worth it unless you're like really trying to stretch like living some physical. Yeah, no.
If you want to stretch and you're like, okay, I'm fine getting OCO'd by Volcanion 100% of the time. That's not a big deal. But I need to take this physical hit or whatever. Like, go for it, right? If like 40 EVs is like actually a make or break. But when it comes to, you know, just straight up general meta shit, you should be calculating how much HP, you know, your benchmark is sometimes, and then you could invest in defense from there, or SPDF, or whatever the fuck. But something I recommend is like definitely see how much HP there is for like one specific random matchup, and then you can go from there.
Nope. Okay, can I go over? I wanted to go over my EVing process. Is that alright? Can I do it?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so for my example, I was going to do Custap Garchomp. So can you just pull up Garchomp in the team builder? Okay, so you typically, I like to start with having a physical and special benchmark. I usually start with bulk. My order is usually bulk, speed, and then offense investment. Sometimes it can depend. Like it often can vary, but I feel like most of the time this is what I go with. So, to start off, we're just going to go with Life Orb Zera Outrage. You need 96 HP to live. It feels a bit weird like EVing for this with Custap Garchomp, but the idea is you don't want to like randomly injure on like a bulk up non-outrage set, and now you can lose to that.
Yeah, there's no reason. If you have 96 HP that like gives you a 100% out versus a Mon, fucking take that out, dude.
Yep. Yeah, just some physical bulk is good anyways. And then now you're going to want to look for a special benchmark, right? And depending on whether the special benchmark is weaker or stronger, you're going to do two different things, right? If it's weaker, you're going to want to be dropping HP down to that special benchmark. Like, let's say the special benchmark you find only needs like 36 HP EVs. You'll drop down to that, and then you can go back to the Zeraora calc, and you can see how much defense you now need to live that Zeraora calc. And now you can do the rest you can do what you want with your physical attack and speed. The other thing is if your special benchmark ends up being stronger, you want to leave the HP the way it is, and you want to invest into special defense to now live that special hit. What you're never going to do here is raise HP. That's just not going to happen. There's no case where it's optimal to raise the HP from this point unless you change your physical benchmark. So for this example, we're going to go with max special attack Primarina Moonblast. So you can't even live this with max HP, so we absolutely know that it's way stronger than Life Orb Zera Outrage. So we're going to want to go with 156 special defense is what we need to live this, combined with the HP. Right, in the calc, this would be pretty easy. You can just increase the slider up. It gets a lot more annoying on mobile, which is what I have to calc with, because I've got to you don't have the arrow, so I have to keep deleting the number and inputting it. It's very annoying. But yeah, if you're on PC, it's very easy to just drag the slider. So now let's say for speed we want to go with 252 speed Modest Necrozma. So that's going to be 258 speed to outspeed that. I'm giving Dom time to quickly slide.
Yep, I'm sliding, boy.
Okay. So now the problem is Custap Garchomp. One of the big advantages to Custap Garchomp is that it wants to be able to kill no bulk Darmg, right? It wants to be able to just completely smack that without rage after enduring an Icicle Crash or Ice Punch or whatever. The problem is, if it's Crash, Ice Punch is like only run on band, and it's kind of dumb. I think Crash is just better. Anyways, if you're enduring Crunch, and we've got like, I don't know how much attack you even get with this, probably like 100, like 50-ish or so. You do not kill Darmg at all. you need max attack for that to be a roll. It's like a 93.5% roll with max attack. So we absolutely need all the attack we can get with this, right? That's where these test calcs, after you've kind of started all your bulk and your speed, you really want to do these test calcs afterwards to make sure you're killing the stuff that you need to.
Go all
So
the
now
way.
we need like max attack to kill Darmjeet. So we're gonna have to rework our benchmarks, right? EVing is not just an autonomous process. You often have to make sacrifices. In this case, I think we should probably sacrifice the Primarina benchmark because not a lot of Primarina are running max special attack, right? So maybe we just dump max attack and then we drop down our special defense and see how much we can have afterwards. So if you can do that, I don't know what the number is. I don't know how much special defense you get. 88, that's fine. Yeah, 96 HP, 88 special defense, that's fine. And now we've got our Garchomp. That should the speed is nice for Necrozma because a lot of Necrozma are starting to run faster for Feeny. And honestly, I just kind of picked a random speed benchmark. We needed something for this example.
Yeah, 0 speed Garchomp feels weird.
Yeah, it's like okay on Custep. I have run it before. I've run like super bulky Garchomp before for something. It was like someone had something weird in their usage I needed bulk for. I don't really remember anymore. And it worked fine, but yeah, there's some matchups where you can just get totally fucked by being slower. It's really funny.
No, I haven't played
you know what it is? It's
ladder
like
games.
I was thinking of. In Black-White, my Custep Garchomps run no speed because I just run a shit ton of special defense to live Specs Keldeo Icy Wind.
There you go.
In cases like that, it is quite useful. You also don't need the attack invest that you do in that tier because no Darmji.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was all for my example. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
Yeah, I think the HP benchmark thing is crucial. That's definitely like the thing I focus on the most EVing. And like Potatochan said, go all the way. I'll show you guys an example really quick of when I didn't go all the way, and I looked like a fucking fool EVing. So basically what I did is I went 248 speed, or 248 HP in Oras, for Law Punny on my Charizard, and then I put, the 68 defense, right? And then I'm like, cool, I live Law Fake Out Giga right now, sick. And then I decided to put like 88 or so, Spadef in for Volcanion, which seems cool in theory. Mixed def seems kind of fucking cool. And then I'm gonna show you why that doesn't actually work out. So 248, 68, and then something like 88, I think. And then I went 12 attack, and then rest and speed. But the issue is that you don't actually, with this set, you don't actually kill Mega Lopunny with a Flare Blitz, which is fine, you can DD. But if you DD, you're not even faster than it. So, you're not going to be consistent versus like a Jolly Lop, for example. I looked like a fucking fool. And so what you could do is you can just go 0 speed, 104 attack, but that's still rolls. I mean, that's a good-ass roll if you ask me. But yeah, that's something you gotta like think about. Like, do I actually outspeed the thing I want to outspeed and kill it? I did not fulfill those two things, so yeah.
Yeah, so you of course you kind of have options, right? You gotta weigh your options. You can gamble like, okay, maybe like who runs max speed Law Bunny? You need Adamant to kill stuff, right? But then of course you could always just get owned by some random ladder kid who decides to go Jolly.
Well, Jolly Lop
right?
has a legitimate purpose. It's not like it's just worse than Adamant. Like you are very consistent versus Greninja and some other stuff around that speed tier. But yeah, people are
really
definitely
just Greninja.
People are for sure going for Adamant Lop these days. That is like the Lop. So you can say, hey, I'm just gonna DD fuck the ops, whatever. But
yeah. Especially just if your team is Gren weak, it's fine, I think. I don't know. I would probably just run a different Pokemon, though. I feel like without Adamant Nature, Lopunny loses a lot of its value in getting rolls. Anyways, we're not arguing about the viability of Jolly versus Adamant Lopunny. The point is, right, you have to assess, like, what are people running, what can I kind of sacrifice? Because a lot of the time, your benchmarks are going to start with EVing for worst case scenario, and then you can choose to kind of make some sacrifices from there based on, like, what do I think people are running, right? A lot of the time, my sets for the sets comp. Meanwhile, the sets comp, if you check out the EV explanations, a lot of those EVs aren't great because they have to EV for like the max special attacks and Link to be running, right? Like I did with Primarina. The sets comp can't just choose to drop special attack drop that special bulk, because it can't just like creep like sets comp special like prim or something, right?
Yeah.
It can't do that, but we can. We are free EV makers, right? We're just EVing for our own sets. We can do whatever the heck you want, right? If you just feel like, I don't know, I don't have a benchmark, I just want to dump some HP in here, go for it, right? It's your own set, and you're not the sets comp. You don't need an EV explanation.
Yeah.
Like I've done that before with, in particular, Garchomp is one of the examples. I find finding good benchmarks for Garchomp is very weird. I don't normally go with the Zora one. I just kind of like dump some HP in and then put the rest into Spadef to live prim and call it a day.
Are you done with that thought?
What?
Because I have another question, like actual
Okay.
question, deadass. I don't know the answer. When is 248 HP better than 252?
Oh, I actually have no clue.
Okay, so I
like
just did some calcing. I think it's a case-by-case basis? Question mark.
Absolutely, yeah, it absolutely is. I have 244 HP Pokemon sometimes as well, depending on how the calc works out. In general, you want to start with 252 HP. I would always start, unless you're like a substitute Pokemon and you want those extra subs. Oh, I have a good point about that later. Remind me to come back to the substitute point, but I want to not lose track of this point. You want to start with 252 HP, and let's say you're EVing your hit, right? And you take let's say you live. I'm trying to think. Let's say your benchmark, it goes like you're dragging the slider, and you get like the move does 99.3%, right? Mm-hmm. You can drop down to 248 HP and still live that with it doing 99.7 or 99.6, right? You're still gonna live that hit, but now you've saved an extra point out of HP, right? So it's those cases where it's optimal. But yeah, if you can EV it for 252 HP, that's usually optimal because it helps with the other benchmark. Usually, having that extra HP point can typically help with the benchmark on the other side. I have EVs that I realized were suboptimal later because I EV'd both my moves for 248 HP, and then I realized like, wait, I can drop both of my benchmarks by one EV and just add one more EV into HP, and now I've saved an EV total, right? 2 for 1 trade. So. Yeah, there's 252 HP is usually optimal. Okay, now back
I
to my
just checked Mixed Def, Zard, and Oras. 248 is optimal. It's always that type of situation where you gotta see, because like taking like a low punny high jump kick fake out and taking a Specs Volcanion steam eruption or whatever is gonna be like really weird. So definitely like just test it out and see, is 248 better, is 252 better, is 244 better, whatever.
But yeah, I would just start with max HP and then drop it from there if you can, right?
Yeah, you want as much 99.7s as you can get.
Yep. One other thing with making sacrifices and stuff, you probably want to be sacrificing the benchmarks that are running max rather than your benchmarks that are kind of like creeping a certain thing. Like I've seen Elo Bandit will be creeping like non-max invest on something and making it a slight roll. I'm like, you are playing like a very dangerous game.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta decide one or the other, not both.
Yeah, the problem is like if someone decides to run more invest, now you're dying like the majority of the time because you decided to make it a roll versus like very like little invest. You don't want to do that, I feel.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, my substitute point. So one thing people forget about subs, odd HP does not mean, not odd HP does not mean 4 subs, but it does. But even HP does not mean you don't get 4 subs, because it's about if your HP is divisible by 4, not if it's... Yeah, some people forget that sometimes, I feel.
I didn't know that for a while.
Yeah, it was something I just kind of clued into more recently, is stuff like that. It's not always about even HP. Sometimes it can be about having it divisible by 4 or whatever instead. I used to run like 244 HP Bolt. It was kind of interesting because you would get the odd HP substitutes, but then also like you'd be able to get 4 substitutes, but then you'd also get, if you cursed turn 1, your HP was still divisible by 0, so you'd get Citrus right away, and you could go for Phantom Force or like something.
That's a great point.
Also, it's good to note that odd HP is actually good for stuff like Leech Seed and Burn. They will leave you on 1% if you're odd HP, I'm pretty sure. And if you're running something like a Flame Charge Mon to beat Jump Off, you should definitely run odd HP for more chances to hit with Flame Charge.
Think about
it's
Citrus
really useful
and Belly Drum and Curse and that shit.
Yeah. Also, people need to stop putting even HP belly drum lax on sets comps. It was on the SS one for way too long, and then
What,
I
you mean
think
odd
it's still
HP?
in the black white one as well. It's still in the black white one. It's fucking
You mean
even.
odd? You mean odd? You mean odd? You mean odd?
Do I? Oh yeah, sorry, odd. Yeah. I was forgetting.
Idiot.
Yeah. True. I am. But yeah. Sorry, yeah. The black white sets comp still has odd HP lax.
So do you want to talk about like those like micro decisions you make, like when it comes to like, do I want 4 subs or do I want 3 subs type of thing?
Okay, that's not so much EVing. That's more set building. I would.
But it kind of. I mean, you do that with EVs, right? So you can talk about it.
I guess, yeah. It just depends to different scenarios. Like some Pokemon want to be getting those extra substitutes for maybe like an extra dodge chance.
Like
other Pokemon, right? Let's say like Sub Pataya Infernape, right? Like against like Metagross, you want to be getting down to Blaze to scout for like Aqua Metagross, right? But you also don't want to be dying to, so you want to be getting to Sub Pataya, like to Blaze Pataya, right?
Yeah.
For maximum damage to make sure you kill. But you also don't want to be dying to Bullet Punch. Yeah. So you.
So that's not a good. That's not a good time to be to be subbing to 1. Another example would be Oras Sub Greninja. It's like the same thing. You don't want Metagross and Mawile. They just OHKO you when you're at 1%, so you can get to 25.
Mawile does you from 25 anyways. Doesn't really matter.
I think it's a roll, because I've run a fuck ton of defense on my Torn Greninjas before.
Bro, you're running max defense Greninja or what?
I run like a lot of defense. I don't think I've run 252, but I've run like a good fucking amount.
Maybe then. I also, or maybe if you're talking like 0 special attack. Or
Yeah,
zero
I'm talking about 0 Tech Maw.
attack Mawile. Then.
Yeah. Let's see that. Right
Okay,
now.
yeah. Then there's maybe a chance of it just hooked up to you. But yeah, Metagross is a big one. Mawile's is so stupid strong. Holy. I'm talking right now.
It does 23 to 27 on like a set that I got a while ago. So there you go. There's a chance.
Well, Maw sucks. Going to play.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh wait, is there anything else you want to go over? I feel like it'd be fine to keep this part of the set of the guide concise.
In general, or just this like specific section of EVs?
I'm just saying this specific section. Like, I'm just saying, like, is there anything?
Else.
I feel like we covered the important stuff, right? I don't know if we want to just make everything good long.
I mean, I'll ask other people afterwards and then edit in if we need to, but I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. So you think this one's good then?
Actually, so we should go over like high HP mons, I guess.
Oh, that is a good point. What's a good example?
Snorlax, Hariyama.
Okay, those ones are so annoying. I didn't prepare
Zygarde,
anything. Damn, those ones.
Regidrago.
Oh, Reggie's a good one. Okay. I will like pull something on the fly. I got this.
Basically, it's not too wise to invest in HP on a mon with a fuck ton of HP, unless you're going like, for example, I'll pull up Snorlax because I've seen this before. So I've run like 252 defense Impish Snorlax, and then you can have like some HP for just random shit that you want to like live if it's like really close rolls.
Yeah, I don't really have a method for high HP mons. Sorry, well, Regidrago's different. Snorlax, I remember like would always just be annoying. You'd invest like a bit of HP and just kind of do some test calcs and like finally find something that's optimal. Regidrago's been different. I've never found a case where investing HP on Drago is optimal. I think the sets comp does it, but I'm also skeptical that it's even optimal. I've never put HP in Regidrago, like not even 4. Like it's always been optimal for me to just go fully into both benchmarks on both sides, no HP invest, and then running other stats like speed and special attack. Yeah, no. So typically with high HP mons, you're just investing both sides. Even if like maybe investing HP is like slightly optimal for that, again, like that slight percent roll, that's not really that important. I feel people obsess over that too much. Spend your time like making new techs and stuff. Don't like spend 30 minutes just trying to get that extra.
Like the 6% thing on Regidrago.
Yeah.
And I feel like Regidrago specifically, his offensive rolls are way more important than his defensive rolls. I mean,
Definitely.
I don't fucking use Regidrago, but that's what like it just seems like, because with like Dragon's Maw and shit, I don't know, man, seems good.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, no, the defense is pretty important, though, because the main reason that made Drago busted was people realized that you can just, like, slap a crap ton of defense and now live just, like, bandit outrages and stuff.
Yeah. From, like, what, like Zera?
Yeah, from Zera, Arcanine, all that, you can just eat those up. I think Lando, like, Adamant Lando still drops you, and, like, T-Tar with Sand, but, yeah, it's funny.
So, yeah, don't, like, if you need, like, to maybe go, like, hella defense on maybe something like Snorlax, and then you want hella attack, maybe think about, like, okay, does 252 plus defense require any HP? And then if it does, you know, fucking go look at that. Or, like, is there any, like, special mons that HP would be good for? I mean...
right, there's one more case I wanted to talk about, which is the case of having, where you want to invest, like, max defense, and then have a bit of HP to live a hit. You don't really care about special benchmarks. And then you're putting the rest into special attack. Have you ever had, like, one of those instances? I feel like I have those a lot.
Dude, when I have high HP mons, I just ask someone else to EV in.
I'm not necessarily talking high HP mons. My main example is Sylveon. I find this happens with Sylveon a lot, where there's not really, like, with Sylveon's Obscene Special Bulk, there's just not really a special benchmark I care about.
There isn't.
Extra Cosma, or, like, I don't really want to be EVing the bulk that's needed for all the poison mons, like, you want to live, like, Specs, Sludge Bombs and stuff from, or Sludge Waves, I mean. So in that case, I will just go, like, barely any HP, I just go max defense with Bold, and then I start running some HP. There's two ways you can EV that sort of thing. You can either go max defense Bold and then put your HP in, or you could go, like, max defense no Bold nature and put more HP in. And a lot of people do this, then they put Modest in. They get to run a plus special attack nature now. They're like, oh, I'm putting my plus special attack nature in the higher stat. This is optimal. This is actually not optimal. It is more optimal to go with the plus defense for that sort of thing. I honestly don't have a good explanation.
I don't know. Is this optimal?
Do you have something? Did you post something in Discord or?
Yeah, I just put in the group chat.
Oh, hang on. Okay, so let me quickly take a look at that then.
It's like exactly what we're talking about, I think. But there's a special benchmark though.
Do you know what the physical benchmark is? Oh, you're saying there's a special.
Lop, Gera, Sock, or things I was thinking about, and then I think Scarf PZ maybe.
Okay, here, let's just do an example, alright? Okay. So can you just load up in the damage calc, just do, like, max defense Sylve, and maybe let's just calc versus... I don't know, we just want a random move, so just take Metagross, give it Meteor Mash, and, like, some random amount of attack.
I'm gonna do Sock Poison Jab, because I'm the GOAT.
Oh, that works. That's a good one, yeah. As long as Sylve doesn't just eat that with max HP, with max defense Bold raw.
Oh, it does. Well,
maybe
okay, Metagross time.
Do Haxorus, do just Adamant Choice Band Haxorus.
Okay. Poison Jab. Okay, got it.
Okay, so how much HP do you need for that?
Let me see. 80.
80?
Yeah. Bold max defense and then 80 HP.
One other important thing to do here is drop the defense by 1 point. I find this often works and it doesn't change the roll at all.
Just did. Lol.
So bring it back up. It happens sometimes. It's random. It's just the way the damage calc rounds damage and stuff and works out. Okay, so yeah, and then put the rest in the special attack, and then we're gonna do the same. We're gonna calc we're gonna EV for Haxorus without the Bold nature, and we're gonna see which one gets more special attack.
Sylveon. So, you wanted to calc a Modest Sylveon?
Yeah, so now do Modest, so just max defense, no boosting nature, right? And compare them side by side in the builder. I'm pretty sure the one with Bold nature should actually give more special attack.
Probably. Modest. Okay, max defense, Modest, and then yeah. Oh my god, dude, HP on Sylveon is heinous. Okay, 216. Yeah, you were totally right. This Modest Sylveon fucking sucks. Here, I'll send you.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so there's two things to consider here, right? One, our Bold Sylveon has more special attack, but that HP could make a difference in some cases, right? So that's why oftentimes you will see, like, kind of a mixed spread with some HP and some defense, because maybe there is some special benchmark there, right? It's the first one is only optimal in a case where you just absolutely do not care about special benchmarks. That set just, like, drops to Modest, Necrozma, Prismatic Laser. That just dies. So there's always give and take for this stuff. But yeah, if you don't care about special benchmarks, that bold nature is optimal for special attack, which is kind of interesting.
Something I wanted to say is, like, yeah, there's like rules and shit, but I mean, getting better at EVs is just EVing yourself, fucking around in the calc, and just seeing like how you kind of EV. Like, yeah, there's like some few rules, but you kind of just get better at EVing by just EVing. Like, when I first started EVing, I never ever saw things all the way through. Like, I never like was like, okay, I bulk this and then I have to beat this and attack. No, I would like always forget something. But or I would just run like careful cure on black, which is not good. That is like omega unoptimal. But yeah.
Yeah, because cure in black has that much higher physical defense,
yeah,
right? So
and attack. But yeah, I wasn't investing in attack in that.
We're assuming we're not.
Yeah. Go impish on fat cure in black.
Yep.
So yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on right now?
No, I think that was everything. That's all I got in my notes for this.
Okay, so I am going to take the wheel. Okay, so I'm gonna show some examples of just EVs that I've done. Some of them might like be slightly bad, but overall I found hella success with these. So yeah. So first off, we got my boy Max Zard, and you might be wondering, okay, well the like most common Max Zard is Jolly for like other Zards and shit, but Adamant Zard has a absolutely good niche versus Mega Venusaur. I'll show you right now. Charm Synthesis, 100%. So if you look at these rolls, these actually, okay, you want to Flare Blitz, that's interesting. Basically the idea is you sub on a charm or even a sludge bomb, and then from there you kind of condition them not to charm, and so you just 2 KO with Flare Blitz or Outrage most of the time. It depends on if they charm or sludge and all that shit, but Outrage is 89.1% chance to 2 KO and Flare Blitz is 93, but you definitely want to take into account recoil, so keep recoil in mind. I've seen hella people just like Mega DD and then Flare Blitz and do an Endure and then fucking die with Zard in 1v1, for example. You don't want to be Flare Blitzing and Endure or Flare Blitzing if they're gonna fucking live. Outrage is probably better for that. So yeah, that's an example of Max being good because like max HP doesn't actually change anything here, like really. So yeah. Max speed is just good for outspeeding just random other Zards and just shit like that. 290 speed 2 is kind of crowded. So I'm going to show you guys another example of Max being good. So where is it? It's called... Max Chomper Slayer. Okay, yeah. So basically, Garchomp Band does 86.5. You might be like, wow, that's less than 100. What's the big deal? Well, Rough Skin is 1/8 HP and it activates after you attack. So if you are at 1 HP and then hit them with the Ice Punch, you're gonna die from Rough Skin. So 1/8 is 12.5. So 7/8 is 87.5. And then you have 86.5 as the max roll. Here, you can like take away like a bit of HP, but that doesn't really do actually anything. Like 20 def or 20 speed doesn't really do anything. Maybe you can, it doesn't do anything because you don't get the speed turn 1. So I think max isn't completely Omega super duper optimal. But you have like 20 leftover EVs, so you fucking might as well be max for this example. Do the math. Like, sometimes you're gonna have to open a fucking calculator, and that's fucking okay, dude.
I have like a few pieces of paper with like written math for Pokemon that I've sent to like teammates and team board stuff. I had it for like Celesteela with Leech Seed. It was a really annoying matchup. And I had another one for calcing against Tyranitar with the Sand Chip, right? Stuff like that is very, very difficult to keep
I always
track
do that
of.
in Paste, but I don't write it down. I'm not a freaking nerd.
Here, I'll send you the screenshots right now.
Yeah,
I've
seen one of them, but I haven't seen
Yeah,
Like,
I
anymore
did. Yeah,
than
I
that.
did send you the editor one. Yeah, I the other one's back in PL. I think. I don't think I have that anymore. But yeah, it's still funny.
Okay, I just was looking at one of my calcs actually, or my sets actually being bad. What? Okay, I'm actually shit at the game. The CV spread sucks. Anyways, I think it's just for good odds. I was just looking at one of mine, my Victinis, and I thought it was good versus Lot, but it gets rolled by Adamant. Because what the fuck doesn't? What doesn't get rolled by Lot these days? Okay, so another thing I wanna say is that pay attention to IVs. There was actually, I was calculating something, Specs Lander T versus Gyarados Waterfall, and the 30 defense IV was actually huge. It turned a guaranteed live into a 6.3, and at that point, if I wanted to like go for a 6.3, then I just invested in a little bit of speed and said fuck it, because I'm gonna get rolled anyways, so I might have just like taken a little bit of def that didn't matter and then put it into speed. So think about IVs, think about all that shit.
What hidden power is Lando running?
Rock.
Oh,
For the other, for just Zardex. Do you want to explain? Do you have any EV spreads you want to just explain besides your Garchomp one? I have one of yours here. Here's
really.
your,
I felt like that was a pretty good example.
Here's something you gave me, and I just use that and don't really question it. Actually, I think I gave it 221 speed. You had it at 219, which I thought was cringe. But yeah.
I had it at 219.
219 speed. Like Lando hitting 219 speed, and I'm like, I don't like this because I like 220 and 221.
It was definitely for something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was for I mean, no, 219 is like you outspeed Zard after Rock Tomb, but I just like 220 and 221 more because like way more shit is at 220 than not. So yeah.
Oh, you're talking, dude. I thought you were talking invest, and honestly, my brain didn't even click.
I should have.
219 is not an invest number. Yeah, I don't know why my brain didn't click immediately into like 219 invest. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
God, I'm so dumb. Yeah, okay. So, because this hits 221.
Yeah, I made it 221. Yours was 219.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because I hate that I know that Lando hits 218 with no invest.
Yeah, you're a nerd.
Yeah. I don't remember the investment for this though. I think you just said you wanted it to be like told me you wanted it to be reliable versus Metagross, and then I looked at Ice Punch doing like 200%. I was like, I don't understand.
Well, okay, Ice Punch meta was, I don't know if it is now, but it was not common because what are you hitting with it? Like Garchomp and then dying to Rough Skin anyways. Like
I'm hitting Lando with it,
which sucks. Like what? Like. But yeah, then people started using Lando T, so Ice Punch is like definitely okay now.
Yeah, and I think like very Fizz Def Metagross has been common, which like eats I think Garchomp Earthquake with ease, and you can Ice Punch that and live Rough Skin. Pretty sure.
Yeah, that was the max one I was showing the people.
Yeah, I don't remember the benchmarks for this though. Unfortunately, I assume the special one is for Zard Y Modest. Blast Burn, which is actually obscene that you need that much special defense with Assault Vest. That's crazy.
It absolutely is.
Zard Y is a fucking demon. That mon rolls everything in the tier.
So I'm gonna tell the people right now. Another advice point I have is to push mons to their absolute limit. I'm showing a calc right now of Banded Terrakion 252 attack doing 101.3 max to Bold Volcanion max defense 240 HP. It is a 6.3% chance to Oko with a Banded Stone Edge. That is fucking insane, dude. That is so crazy. And like another example of this being practical is Megazard X, which definitely.
Oh, you don't even get 2 killed by Outrage, do you? That is interesting.
Only not Adamant. Adamant 2 KOs, but that's Adamant max attack, which is not that common. Jolly Volcanion has good odds. Yeah, it's a 70%-ish type of thing. Plus this.
I see.
You know, there's always the
another thing I think about, or I like to think about with EVs is like, think about like move accuracy. Cause that's like, if you're like, oh shit, dude, it's gonna take like 100 extra EVs to live this stone edge every time. Or you could just say, hey, I'll take a 12% roll, and then they have a miss chance anyways. So that's like basically lowers it, right? So
yeah, against Alecki, against Reggie Alecki in Sword Shield with like I remember like specially defensive Genesect, I would EV for that to have like a 30% chance to kill because I'm like, who gets the 30% roll and hits? You know, like it's exactly right with moves like that. You can totally afford to run less, right? And Pokemon's about managing your odds, right? You can have, and that's the builder's like one of the just another place you can do that.
When you're like set building, this is definitely more of a set building tip than anything, but if you're set building and you need to like take 4 ice beams, you should like reconsider that, dude. That's like not good. You don't want to be taking 4 ice beams if you don't fucking need to be.
Oh,
or 4 thunderbolts, or 4 flame darts or whatever, you know.
Yeah, you got to consider like giving a bunch of chances for secondary effects and stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Right, you can't like just because the secondary effect doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right? That 1 in 10 is going to happen 1 in 10 times. You don't want to be taking.
If you think about it, if you fucking think about it, a best of 5 is 5 games, and if it's not just constant O-killing, there's like great odds for hacks to happen. Like hacks is very probable with like 10%.
Yep.
You know, 6.3% crit. I don't know if that's the right number, but I think it's around 6.3 for like crit rate, like pre-SM. There's like just bad, like Will-O-Wisp and Stone Edge and Focus Blast and all that shit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and just think about like some games do go by without hacks, right? But there's a bunch of games you play, right? Like you can't just like throw out multiple games to throw off like 10 Dracos and expect not to miss one of them. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna just go over a few other sets that if I can. This Scarf Genesect is for tanking.
So basically, I don't know why there's 4 Spadef on it.
I'll just put it in the group chat, but like there's no actual reason for it to be there, but it is. But whatever. Maybe it is literally for something. But basically, for Scarf Genesect, all you really want to do is live like there's not really much to bulk besides like Lopunny Fake Out HJK, right? So if it's just one move, then just fucking go into defense. That's the best time to just ditch HP, is if it's just one move, and that's that. You don't want to do this stupid HP shit, which makes your shit slower and weaker. If it's just one move, then go for defense, like abso-fucking-lutely. That's like the main thing.
Yep.
I think like raw Spadef is kind of ugly, personally. I don't like to do raw Spadef most of the time.
There's Necrozma Sword Shield that run raw Spadef. Like Calm Mind Life Orb on the sets comp, I think, just runs raw Spadef because it wants speed and power, but it still wants a bit of like it wants to be bulking some Sylveon benchmark, I think.
Yeah. That's very legit.
There's a lot of cases where you want this. It's all about like HP is when you're intentionally trying to make like a bulky mon that lives stuff on both sides. But if you're trying to make a fast offensive mon and you just kind of want to tank that one hit, that's where you do the no HP, just run a bit of defense or special.
I can't count the amount of times that I've been like giving people teams and then watching the game and I'll be like, oh, this mon like totally loses to this other mon that they have, and then I'll calc and it's like, oh, they have a 30% win con because of this HP. That like they shouldn't really have, but they do because HP is fucking useful. One last set that I'm very proud of, man, very proud of. Even though someone like built it before me, is Oras Bulky Gyarados. Basically, Huron Black Fusion Bolt does not 2KO you, and you are fat and strong as a bitch. Like, this Gyara is so hard to just beat with random shit because you have max HP Mega Gyarados, which has 109 defense and 130 Spadef. Like, that thing is a fucking demon to kill. And it has waterfall flinches for losing matchups.
Can you drop the set in Discord? Because I've seen you with like 3 different versions of this like set, all being suboptimal, and I need to make sure this one's right.
Okay, I had one that was it speed tied with Garchomp, and then I had one that fucking like had like not good HP, or it was like even HP when it shouldn't have been or something.
Oh, this one has extra speed. This one has some speed creep because your normal
This random team or set I built dropped from my builder is like speed creeping other Garas by 1 point. It's like retarded.
It's by 2 points, I think. Yeah, because normally I remember your normal set was you had 60 attack instead. You just had an extra point. You only had 100 speed because that hits enough to outspeed Garchomp at +1. And you actually had 4 Spidef on the set, I remember, which I think was for Zard Y HP Electric, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I just be having variants and shit.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I've seen you with a different version of this too.
Yeah, this is like something that's fucking, probably the thing I've EV'd best in ORS. I haven't really EV'd anything like much better than this.
Well, the one thing I wonder is, could you not drop some HP here, right?
Well, I mean, I just like mixed bulk on this thing because Gary's taking a lot of hits. That's like,
it makes sense.
And,
I'm just wondering,
attack
like,
doesn't actually like.
That's right.
You could be 0 attack adamant, and then I don't think anything would change. You don't really need that much attack, which is why I've continuously like. It used to be like 80 attack, and then I just kind of kept dropping it over and over and over and over. But yeah.
Yeah, because half the time Gara's just like DDing up and getting 2 at KOs. It really doesn't need that that attack very much for rolls. And at the end of the day, just waterfall flinch what you can.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. If you're EVing for Zard Y and you're realizing that you have to hit a Stone Edge through air slash flinch, GG! You have lost already versus Zard Y. You have done yourself irreparable damage, but yeah.
Yep.
I'll like ask around for EV tips. I might link UOP's really old guide on the screen now or in the description or like something. But yeah, basically fucking just calc, dude. Like, that's really it. And there's definitely rules, but at the end of the day, once you're EVing, you're just going to be hitting the calc. Definitely make separate versions of like things so you can actually see, hey, is this optimal? Should I be having this bulk or this HP or this nature or whatever? Make different versions of sets. I've had things where I have like, okay, I have like 5 different ways I can EV this, and I've just had like 5 whatever mons, and then yeah, I think when I was EVing Regidrago for Brian, I made like 3 or 4 Regidragos, and then just got the one that was best.
Yeah, I have a lot of sets with different variants. I also end up like making a new set for most teams, I find, just depending on what they need to cover. But I feel like that's definitely a me thing. For most people, like, I definitely would recommend though. Like, let's say you're trying to optimize a set, you're like, I don't know if I should sacrifice this benchmark or this one, right? Make 2 versions and then keep that in your builder, right? Because then later on,
make 3 versions, make 4 versions if you need to.
Yeah, exactly. You can keep multiple versions, and then whenever you need to build, right, you can choose which one's best for the team depending on what it sacrifices. So that's
last thing. We haven't really touched on speed a lot. Basically, you shouldn't dump speed like ever. Like, look at the fucking speed tiers and then think about, hey, maybe my opponent's like doing a little creep, but this mon can't afford a ton of creep, so I'll like creep the little creep. I highly recommend people speed creep their mons. I like always do it, and it pays off like a lot. Be aware of what other people are EVing for too, cause I was my Genesect was like exactly enough speed to outspeed Lop with Scarf, and then I was fighting Bea and they were running another Scarf mon that tried to do the exact same thing, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to be speed time with other Scarfers because that can like be huge, so I'm gonna put like a little bit more speed so that people that just ooga booga, I hit a benchmark, I'm done, are slower than my mon, for example.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, just creep is just a good idea in general.
And my last point is find out as a player how much attack you like, because people these days, like, Potatochan's method is I want to bulk this and outspeed this, and then I have, you know, my last stat is attack. But if you like neglect your attack on certain mons, like, you can get really frustrated with how weak your mons are becoming. I've preached about this a lot, and I'm not saying, you know, never bulk anything, but like be very conscious of like, oh, this mon actually is not hitting as hard as I would like it to. This is like a big deal. So let me like rework my EV so I can actually fucking kill shit. Like for example, my Zard versus low punny situation. That set didn't. It was like the worst of both worlds. Like you didn't outspeed low punny and you didn't kill it. So it's like, what the fuck is the point of this shit? So I personally hate Spadef Zardex and Oras. Because it's too weak, and also I don't like Spadef Zardex and Oras because you only beat one Greninja with it. For example, you don't beat Torrent. So if you're EVing for like only one set of one mon, maybe you consider, hey, is this even worth it? Like I can just cover this with a teammate and have like, you know, more open EVs for this or that. So yeah, find what works best for you. That's obviously the best thing. Some people are like complete fucking nerds. Some people, you know, don't even think about it at all, and I recommend being in the middle, probably a little bit towards nerd a bit more. Be conscious of your EVs, make sure they actually do the shit you want. But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I feel like I had a point like partway through that monologue and then I lost it. Oh well. I was gonna say, with my approach, right, I always make sure to do test calcs afterwards, just to make sure I have the attack invest that I need. And I think if you're gonna go with mine, like I think that's very important. You can't just be like, okay, I got my benchmarks, dump some attack, I'm done. Right? It's really important just to quickly do some calcs with common stuff in the meta. Make sure you're doing the damage you need to be. I had a set just recently that I was EVing for against D2, who I'm playing soon. I assume that this guide will be at like way after this point.
Absolutely.
So, basically, I have I had a Jolly Zarude that wasn't killing something I wanted it to, so I had to end up dropping some speed in order to make that happen, because there were just a bunch of calcs that like Jolly Zarude was not getting as opposed to Adamant. So yeah, I think it's definitely important. Like I done like a crap ton of work into this EV spread. I was like, okay, I got like this 184 attack Adamant Zarude. It kills Garchomp at +1 with power, with Life Orb power, and then I calc other stuff. I was like, damn, I killed like nothing else. I definitely need Adamant.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing, dude. I just keep thinking of things to think of. Fucking. There's like a certain way to EV Scarfers. Basically, like what I recommend is hit the like, you know, the low punny, for example, hit that tier, and then try to like maximize your stats versus everything else. A lot of the time on Scarfies, you don't really need to be 252 timid. Like I've seen like hella like weird ass Scarf EV spreads, and I'm like totally on board with that. Like for example, if you're using like Modest Greninja is absolutely horrible, but if you're running a non-mixed Modest Greninja, you're probably gonna want to be, for example, Modest, and then, you know, have this amount of speed for this, and then Defense Dump, or, you know, Spadef Dump, or the Spadef Dump is for fucking noobs. Probably Defense Dump, honestly. I mean, I say that as like, you know, Spadef Dump is for noobs. That's just something I don't like doing. If you need to Spadef Dump, obviously fucking do it. Don't just like listen to like some weird role that I have. But yeah, on Scarfers,
it's just Oris is a more physical metagame, so I guess that's where it comes from.
And you know, learn from your past EV spreads. You're gonna probably have tournament games, or maybe not tournament games, but you're gonna have at least games where you're like, oh shit, I didn't like think this EV spread all the way through, or wow, this EV spread actually fucking sucks and I hate it. You know, dude, be open to your own EV spreads.
Hang on, I brought Scarf Cinderace versus like Sice for that last seeded tour, and it like undersped Scarf Haxorus because I EV'd specifically for, I think, Jolly Darm or whatever, or like some base 95. But yeah, I just undersped Scarf Haxorus and I lost despite picking it into Haxorus. I was so mad.
Yeah, just think about your shit, learn from your shit. This recording was super long, so I'm gonna just end it. Fuck. Okay, so one last thing I want to talk about with EVing is, actually I have two things, but basically I want to talk about, first off, I'll just talk about opportunity cost. So once you start EVing for tanking stuff, you're gonna want to be on the lookout for 18.8% rolls, 12.5% rolls, and 6.3% rolls. These are just very common benchmarks in 1v1. I'm going to show this really quick. I showed it earlier in this video, I believe. It was this Volcanion versus Terrakion. This Volcanion is just fucking legit, and it's sick. And Terrak Stone Edge, a very strong, super effective move.
like really strong, just bounces off. It does 6.3 chance to kill, and then factoring accuracy. Stun is a very satisfactory 6.3. So basically, if it's not a huge deal that there's a 6.3, and you need all the EVs you can get, then 6.3 is fine. I mean, it's obviously a personal thing, but 6.3 is fine when maybe it's a low accuracy move, or maybe an uncommon mon or whatever. And then the next one would be 12.5. Yep. And you know, case by case basis, everyone does it differently. I think a lot of people are okay with 12.5% rolls. And you know, factor in accuracy, factor in commonness, factor in how do I really crit chance, factor in do I really need this to take this hit every single time, or do my teammates scare it? And then where things start to get dangerous is 18.8. I'm not crazy about these odds. The 25 is just unacceptable. Sub 80 is just absolutely ridiculous. But 18.8 is kind of the where 1v1 tryhards like this is the last line. If you know they really need all the EVs they can get super hard, then they will sometimes take an 18.8. I don't like 18.8 personally, but if you need to, be on the lookout for this. And something where you would not want to take one of these rolls is, like I said earlier, I'm gonna do Charizard Mega X for low penny Mega. Adamant Fake Out. So, or Big Impact Rain. Yeah, there we go. So, once you start getting bulky, this is very manageable. You only have HP and a little bit of defense, and this is just generally useful as shit. So in this situation, you're probably not going to be one to be rolled because people, like another thing about human factors, when people send out low bunny or have low bunny on the team, they always click it. They always fucking push that button, baby. And if there's kind of those like mons where it's like this EV spread will become an inevitability, like tanking this shit, then I would probably make it a 100% chance type of thing. And that concludes that. Basically talking about rolls and percentages. Think about accuracy, think about like T-Bolt para, think about like everything. Think about how common it is, think about how really the teammates, you know, all that shit. And the next thing I want to talk about is EVing instead of moves. So I was talking with GGOPW in PO or around PO4, and he said that he was brought to the attention of Power Swap Altaria. What this does is it basically Manaphy Tail Glows on you, and then you Power Swap it and then take it. And then there's other boosts you can do, like you can Power Swap a Zardex DD because you get their attack change. That is notable. But something like Altaria is super strapped for movesets. You want Calling Guard, you want Roost, you want like maybe have her voice, and then it's kind of weird here. Sometimes people like Confide, sometimes people like Hyper Beam for like Greninja and stuff. And like offensive Kieran Blacks, Hyper Beam gets the job done versus them. But I thought to myself one day, I don't really like this set. I don't really think Power Swap Altaria is worth it. So what I decided to do was, I decided to go back to the drawing board on Manaphy, and I got calced +1 Tail Glow. This is whereas Pixelate, so it's fucking busted. And then I decided to run an offensive Altaria Mega. And then I decided, well, I'm already going offensive. I think I was modest. I'm like, I might as well, you know, try to beat stuff that I can not normally beat, and try to be anti-meta. Once you start something anti-meta, you can kind of sometimes continue being anti-meta. So I decided to run Flamethrower and HP Rock. HP Rock as the Zard move. And so, this thing has Hyper Beam. This is very tankable, very very tankable. So you just go maybe something like this. Oh wow, I'm gonna go. So you do 48. This Mega Atari is a mon where 248 is fucking absurdly good, and then you go like this. And this one you can also do is see if the other nature is good. So 295. So probably not. Yeah, no. Since this is the higher raw stat, you want to be boosting the higher raw stat, but just check just in case you made a mistake or whatever. And then I did this, and then was 60 modest. This 2 KOs. You can go like this if you want, and just go get that roll. There you go. So you could like run if you really wanted to be like a dweeb. You could go like something like this for speed creep or something. And think about the human factor. After you hyper voice them, they are not gonna endure. They're not gonna endure on another hyper voice. That's ridiculous. They're just wasting a turn. They're either gonna tail glow you or hyper beam right then and there. So this set takes advantage of that by just hyper voice and hyper beam. They're just gonna think you're some random Atari. I mean, if they're like a genius, they can calc and see, wow, hyper voice did a lot. Maybe he's offensive, but that it takes balls to endure in a situation like that. Kind of a player dependent thing. Some people know each other's sets and can make crazy predictions. Crazy likes to do that, but yeah, this is an example of EVing for something that would take a move, and I kind of took it a step further and just made it generally anti-meta. We got this example of this bold volcano, and then another thing, it's kind of like tier knowledge, but look at what's anti-meta. For example, a lot of Kieran Blacks and Oras with Haban will get rolled by Modest Blastburn because tanking Modest Blastburn is ridiculous. Meloetta and Togekiss also struggle versus Modest Blastburn if you actually do the calcs. So you can say, hey, dude, I want to just roll shit. I want to roll motherfuckers. So you can do something like this, and then whatever last move, and then suddenly you are a demon. Or actually, on this set, I'd probably run this or this. On this set, you're now a demon. You now roll like hella top mons that want to beat Zard, and for not a lot of cost, you know. Zard doesn't need to take a lot of moves. You can go slow if you want. You can go like bulky, you know, 232, whatever. For Modest Gren, you can do this as well, and this is something that is kind of like observing the meta and saying, hey, give me some odds, baby. Give me some fucking chances to beat shit that I shouldn't be able to. And yeah, I think that's just generally wise to do stuff like that. Okay, so creativity is a bit of like a rare thing if you think about like true creativity, like a true creative builder. They're kind of like a bit uncommon these days in 1v1. Someone who like actually builds like consistently unique shit. And I think having even a little bit of creativity is definitely good. So like I think it goes beyond just having like ideas and just, you know, fucking using a fucking Vikavolt or whatever, right? CP2 used to use Vikavolt, but he knew that thing had no niche. He was just trolling when he used it. But like I think creativity is like approaching the game in not a single way. Like I think it's like approaching the game with a like mindset that like you have infinite tools at your disposal to catch your opponent off guard or win games or whatever, you know. So
yeah,
like that's what I think. Like when I see Bopher text, I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on in his head? But and you know, like, do you have like a certain process that you like for creativity or not, Bopher?
I kind of, when I was playing a lot more and I was laddering, I kind of make mental notes of what was strong on ladder and in tour, and then you kind of notice in like 1v1 and Sword Shield especially, a lot of the top tier mons just have like a lot of options available to them. So
Yeah.
I go like look I go like look at like all the options with their like movesets and stuff. See like some unique shit that they can do, or like unique calcs you can get. Yeah.
Because
Just,
like if you're teching, and I think I touched on this in my set building guide a little bit, but if you're like teching shit, sometimes like you can't fit all the moves or like an item just to be a certain mon, but then you could do something sick with the EVs. Like you could like make it so it's like, wow, if I live this hit into a KO, then I don't even have to worry about, you know, X coverage move or whatever. And when it comes to creativity, I want to discuss Bopher making weakness policy or Shifu dark, because I think that is a prime example of just approaching the game in a very unique way that is just sick as fuck. So do you want to like just monologue about your process? Because I have it open.
Yeah, sure.
Right now.
Okay, I've made like a lot of sets, but I can remember my thought process behind this one like really specifically, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. But I originally made it as like a C team. I first kind of noticed that +2 Urshifu with Adamant Nature, max attack, just KOs like every single fairy apart from Aromatisse, like easily. Like you don't even need max attack. So I like fairies just want to one-shot Urshifu, so you can just abuse that with Endure Weakness policy.
Yeah.
So you basically, yeah, it's just like, it's just making a set that abuses what your opponent like wants to do. And you only need 2 move slots for it too. So
Yeah.
I basically got the idea, and then with a bit of like EV and tweaking, I just added like two like moves that just cover like what Urshifu wants to do, which is like beat stall, beat like annoying like ghost types.
I mean, Wicked Blow is just a broken ass move. Like, that's all there is to it. But so I'm gonna pause here and just say that like the way that this set operates is like just not really how Urshifu like just works in general. Like people like to either just OHKO with Urshifu, to a KO with Urshifu, or like boost up with bulk up and shit. But this set just takes like a completely just out of the box approach and says, hey, I know that, you know, a Sylveon yawning is a possibility, but they're not even gonna do it because why would you yawn if, especially in like tournament, maybe on ladder, people, I would yawn on Urshifu on ladder without thinking about it because my brain is fried when I use yawn Sylve on ladder. But in tournament, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna fucking yawn because then I can't protect because Urshifu has Unseen Fist. Another thing that makes this fucking tech actually work, which kind of like, you don't actually abuse the ability, but the ability helps kind of put the opponent in a path that you can exploit. So, this set, like, basically is like, hey, you're not gonna want to yawn because otherwise you're threatened by like a 2 KO, and yawn endures a meme. So, and yawn endure risks poison jab poison anyways. So they're just gonna want to, they hover over your thing, they see Vera Shifu Dark, and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna kill this thing. I picked right, I'm so good. And then you just fucking get down to 1 health and just kill them. Like, was Feeny common at this point in the meta? I don't think so, right? Or like not as much as it is right now.
No, you had to watch out for Scarf, but like it really was not like the S tier pick that it is now.
And just noticing that, you know, Feeny is like, yeah, it's kind of Scarf Feeny's like an issue for the set, but it's not really like gonna make this not function, because at the end of the day, if you're gonna give your opponent like a easy Sylveon or an easy Primarina or whatever, they're probably gonna, like, those are the type of mons that they're gonna click fairly easily without thinking much about. It's kind of like when I watch people's replays sometimes right now, I think like, oh wow, what would a epic 1v1 tournament player pick in this scenario? And then it's like, oh, they pick their Sylveon 2-1 or their Primarina 2-1 in SM or, you know, whatever. So if you like kind of put them in a situation where it's like, oh wow, I just win the game, cool, okay, I got an easy dub, now time to secure 2 more, then like the reward is absolutely insane. And
Yeah. Do you have any other notes about how you finish off this team or anything like that?
Well, I was building this for Blanche in just like a side 1v1 tour, like not a major PO, but I noticed this Urshifu specifically had like a fire matchup. Like it outsped his Venusaur in this game. But I don't know, I still could have lost to like Sleep Power Cheese, but I had like Regidrago to beat that, and it just had like a really good matchup. And I wanted to still lure like fairies, but not make it too obvious. So I had like Zone, which like pretty much hard counters every fairy, and then Regidrago as well. So it's just like they're just so like inclined to pick their fairies, and Urshifu will beat all of them that like literally aren't like Tapu Fini, which I have Zone for anyway. So it just makes preview like difficult and like much more in my favor, I feel.
Yeah. Just having a totally different preview than your opponent thinks you do is just crazy, because it's like, okay, I have my Sylveon like 2-1 or whatever, when it's actually only beats Drago, which you're not gonna click in that matchup, is like perfect. Like, having the leg up on your opponent knowledge-wise is absolutely crazy. That's why I think Ambiguity is so good. But here, I'm gonna like monologue about my weakness policy Victini and my process with that. I've talked about it a lot in this guide because it is like Victini simply was not approached like this in ORAS at this moment, and not that much in general. Like, yeah, there was like some Wisp Z move shit for Dragonite and SM, but that's only a response to Dragonite just being broken, right? So it's also kind of a coincidence that it's a weakness policy set, but weakness policy is such a sick item for like just, I don't know, fucking like weird dynamic changes of mons. Like a lot of mons don't just casually run weakness policy, you know, like as one of their main sets. I mean, ORAS Victini does now, and SS Victini did when it was illegal, but that's because it just covered so much. But like basically what is so sick about weakness policy Victini is that Victini at this point in time just wants to hit fucking physically most of the time. There's you know, some specs Victini in the meta at this time. Maybe people would think about it, but basically Victini's goal was OHKO the opponent or to KO them, maybe. But with like Wisp and then either skill swap or taunt, you simply just like turn seemingly like garbage matchups into, this is like a kind of a lure thing, but not even, because like once weakness policy Victini became standard, it still is fucking good. It's not like, oh, it's just a quirky lure, like it's fucking legit. Basically, this is another example of just turning the game into something completely different. Victini's typing in 1v1 is a bit polarizing. Yeah, you beat like steals and shit, but you know, there's dark types like Gyarados and Sableye, as well as like rock and ground types, you know, shit like that. And this set is sick because, you know, you don't actually fucking just try to OHKO, you like approach it in a completely different way. And oh my god, I need to mute Discord, one sec. I'm getting tagged over and over in this fucking Discord. But yeah, you're approaching the game in a completely different way, which is just, in my opinion, like the fucking like definition of creativity. And if you're wondering like, oh well, how do I get creative right now? There's a few ways. So you should be paying attention to the meta game. Like this weakness policy Urshifu wasn't just like a fucking, like, I don't know, like set that just is like, okay, this is broken, it's amazing. It is, you know, you enter on fairies and then kill them. What could go wrong? It's like an observation of like, hey, this is how fairies actually perform in the metagame. It's a lot of it is beating Urshifu at this point, and if you can turn that into an advantage, that is like going to reap benefits. And the two things about me and Bopher's innovations is, Bopher, this like immediately worked out, right? Like when you brought this, it just simply won, right?
I made it on the day and it just won like the day I made it.
Yeah, and the first time I passed weakness policy Victini to Bubby,
he farmed someone with it in a matchup I didn't even fucking think about. I think I was thinking about Azumarill, not Gyarados. Cause I had like a PZ and D-Knight core, and I'm like, oh yeah, this loses to like AV Azu. Not super common, but you know, or Endurazu. So I'm like, yeah, I want something for that. And then it just beat a Gyarados, and I'm like, wow, dude, I'm actually a genius, but like,
Fire, bro.
like also stupid at the same time for not realizing I beat Gyara. But yeah. So pay attention to the meta. Pay attention to like, hey, this mon is commonly used to beat this mon. But what if it didn't? What if you turn that into like a fucking, like, I approach best of fives and like, okay, a win is just like amazing, like, and you only need 3 of them, you know, and a win is a win. Once you get the win, you only need 2 more, you know. So
these like sets, these like anti-sets that no one else runs are just insanely strong. Like they'll just net you like a win if your opponent's never seen them before.
And more often than not, they will be revealed like really soon because they have such a like calculated, strong presence versus the meta. Usually, like some of my best techs have worked out immediately. And when I started building with like Specs Clef, that is a very, very creative set because in Oras, Clefable was kind of like a weird glue jack of all trades, master of none mon, where it kind of just, it's like, hey, it's your 3rd mon because you want to beat certain things, and Clef's wacky move pool, you know, allows it to do that, you know, with Encore, Cosmic Power, Counter, whatever the fuck, you know. But with Specs Clef, I mean, I didn't make this, obviously. I always say GOPW does, but he basically turns Clef into an offensive mon that stall breaks. When previously, like, he would run like these fast Specs Clefs with Psychic that beat Venusaur. You're beating Venusaur, you're beating Slowbro, you're beating Manaphy, you're beating Registeel. Like, once you pay attention to like people's building patterns and what they like, or maybe not people specifically, but what like once you pay attention to a mon's role in the metagame and why it is like why this beating that mon is so good, if you can turn that into your advantage, that's so fucking helpful. Specs Class has infinite options, and another thing with creativity is approach mons that can do anything. Like Urshifu probably has like 20 viable sets if you know, fucking get down to it, really. Victini has a million sets. Clefable has a million sets. Gardevoir has a million sets. Heatran may not have a million like crazy sets, but you can do weird like optimizations with Heatran, like Scarf Tran with no rock move because you don't need one, or I mean that set sucks ass, but it's like it was a cool idea when it came out, or like Specs Eruption Tran, or Helmet Tran, or Chople Tran, or Pasho Tran, or Custap Tran, or okay, actually AV Tran is not a thing, or Shucka Tran for other Trans to make them EPU, or like I don't know, just like a random ass move like Dark Pulse Tran, or you know, whatever, Taunt Tran, you know. Mons with these like that can kind of have like a basic set of mons that they beat, but then once you add more to them, they go crazy. And something I forgot to say this far was, go if you're looking at a mon with potential, or looking at a mon like, hey, I want this mon to tech that mon, look at every single move, score it on its whole move pool, because there's been so many times where I've been like, god damn it, dude, this mon can't fucking tech this other mon, I should just, you know, give up and kill myself. But then I find the fucking like crazy move, like I was thinking like, okay, realistically, Sableye doesn't actually have to foul play you. What they can do is Metal Burst you and then recover, and then Weakness Pulse. You can't really force progress there, right? Because they're just going to be in a cycle of Metal Burst and recover, Metal Burst and recover. But then I found Skill Swap. So what you do is you fucking skill swap them, and you can after that burn them, and then they can't just infinitely recover because you have like PP, you know. You can just keep fucking attacking them, which will force them to be in a range where I'm pretty sure like just Bolt Strike into burn damage just lets V create kill at adamant max attack. So I was like, wow, like this works out perfectly because you're actually forcing progress. Because sometimes you have good ideas and then they kind of hit the wall because you're like, oh yeah, you know, this mon can't do that. But do you want to talk about your Z move Muse in SM? Because that's like a perfect example of potential. Or do you have any sets you want to toss me right now?
I've got some Mews that like beat like all fairies, all Zards. I can chuck you on.
Yeah, do that right now.
And I've got this Electrium Mew that I bought in PL. I won with it, but not in like a matchup that I planned. It was just another like offensive Mew. I just beat it using Electro Web and Laser Focus Z Zap Cannon, which just like one shot Edgar's Mew. And I originally bought it because it has skill swap as well, so you can just like beat. It's EV to tank all Gyarados. You can lose to like Jolly max speed, but literally no one runs that in Sun and Moon. Like it gets you like no matchups. Yeah, so I just bought it to C-team him. Just like insanely strong. You can give Mew like any Z move. Mew has infinite options, like Dom was saying earlier. It's just one of those like crazy mons that can do anything.
And that's not even like an SS SM exclusive thing. Like honestly, when I was helping Euphanos, or maybe I was helping LBDC, but in ADV I was just making like these crazy Zapdoses. And it's like, it's not really limited to, you know, oh, the Gen War, you know, there's 8 generations and there's 8 generations of moves. It can be just kind of certain mons that allow you to do anything. Like, for example, I already mentioned this in this guide, but I made a fucking Zapdos in DPP that just beats, like, all Raikou. Like, it was like, here, I'm gonna put it on the screen. It's like, Agility, Toxic, Roost, Return. Return, like, breaks Raikou subs, and then Agility Roost makes it so that you resist T-bolts when you're roosted up, and Toxic actually like makes them fucking die. And I think there was like a variant where I had like Max Attack Zapdos, and there was a variant where I had Silk Scarf Zapdos. And that was kind of me saying anything to like actually, because I was telling someone that like, oh yeah, TVP is just a garbage gen and shit, like I don't even know why this shit is still around. And like, no, I'm like, dude, you could just beat a Raikou to Zapdos if you want, and then protection. I'm like, no, you can't. I'm like, okay, let me fucking build for 5 minutes, and then I did. Like, it's like a type of thing where it's like you're really pushing the metagame to its like thing. And like, even for example, if fucking I don't know, DPP and ADV to fucking die, and there's no more Zapdos, like, good versatile mons will fucking gravitate to the top in 1v1. Like, that's just how it fucking works. Like, that's all there really is to it. And do you have any advice for like underused mons when it comes to creativity besides LoL another meta?
Yeah, I made this like I've made kind of like a lot of sets. I'm just trying to think of a good example. I would say like Kosola maybe. I just noticed like no one was using its ability, and then I like kind of did some like testing just with myself of how it works, and all you needed to do is tank like one physical hit to proc its ability, and then you could just store with like Custap Dig and Dua.
Yeah.
And you could, its strength is that you can like disable like a special move and then force like a choiced attacker to attack you, which procs your like ability, which like basically just means they die. So I would say just like find unique niches of like these underused mons, just like what they can do that's unique. And build a team around them that covers like the top meta threats. Like you need to support these like unused picks with like strong meta picks usually.
Yeah. That's something that I see a lot of people do. It's like they'll run teams where it's like, oh, they have 2 bad mons in their team, and their third mon like doesn't even make sense. Like, bro, why are you even like building that way?
Yeah.
You know, another thing, like this is a PS, like small minor thing. You can do this on the Pokemon database, PokemonDB.net, fun fact. But look at like what gets what combo of moves. Like for example, T-Bolt, Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Moonblast is only for Fable. You can do Dazzling Gleam if you want this coverage. Got fucking Dio and Wigglytuff, 2 goats. If you want like this with Earthquake, you get Dindo Queen and Marowak, a T-Tar. So it's really all about like preparing for the meta, I'd say, or your opponent if that works out too. But yeah, just think about, okay, if you want this mon to tech this mon, then just think about all the different ways you could fucking do that. It doesn't really have to be like something that is absolutely off the wall crazy. It's just something where you can have a goal in mind, and maybe it works out in a way that you're
like kind of impressed with yourself with. Like, wow, this shit's fucking cool, and that's a good thing. That's a sign of like actually you're building well, it's fucking improving and all that shit. You know, I'm looking at the fucking VR, or I'm just looking at the random mons list. Like, innovation can be like running like a random crocodile, and realizing, wow, this thing actually has really good matchups. Like, this typing with in-team could be sick. You know, I don't like know what bit I'm even talking about, but Crook is fucking cool, dude. And then you got fucking mons that have like, I don't know, sort of like unexplored niches, like Lando T. You know, you boost up or Oko them or have AV to charge tank, but what if you're running specs on it? You know, that's crazy. Like, you're approaching Lando T in a new way, and it's like, oh wow, this 105 special attack maybe not be as good as 145, but is that 105 like being prepared for? Like, not always. So I think I have nothing more to say. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Apart from, okay, I guess like the last thing I kind of have to say about like creative sets is noticing you can do this with sets comp, like that are just on like the 1v1 forum, but it's like EVing like a band mon, like fully offensive with adamant. Like, a lot of mons just don't calc for it, and you can get really like favorable rolls, you know?
Yeah, if you're like EVing for shit that people don't EV for. Like, I've done that in building so much where it's like, hey, why aren't people EVing for this mon? Like, when I first started EVing Zardex for Adamant Lop, I'm like, why aren't people not doing this? Like, I never saw the 248-68 benchmark ever. And I'm like, dude, why is this not a thing? Like, I don't know, it's just weird. Because people just don't think the same. Like, people, I was thinking about it, I was talking about it with someone, and it's like, players like kind of build in their own unique way. You know, it's how they as a human approach the game, and everyone's so fucking different. Like, it's people in fucking like Deg lives in Lebanon, bro. There's people in fucking like China. There's people in, you know, there's probably some Chinese 1v1 players. I know Whaleman Cheng was the GOAT. There's people all across the fucking world that have had different experiences. So it's like kind of like almost channeled in their teams if you're gonna be a fucking nerd about it. And just people don't like, not everyone thinks of the exact same ideas, especially in a metagame with like so many different things as 1v1, because like, you know, not everyone has a fucking program matchup sheet in their brain where they fucking know every matchup of every tier with every EV spread and every coverage option. You know, some people don't think about bulking their this mon for that mon or running this small move. Like, literally, I'll show you, when I was building a sample team for an example, I was thinking, oh wow, why don't people just bulk their Zard Y for Victini Bolt Strike and just counter it? Like, why do people not just do that? Banned, obviously that's like impossible, but weakness policies is shit these days, so why don't people just run counter Zard Y, you know? That's the type of thing. Counter and mirror code are cool ass moves. Resist berries are always good. You know, see what you can do with EVs, you know. Kind of reiterating the sets building thing, but think about shit that people aren't thinking about, because like I said earlier, or maybe later in this video, I don't know, what people aren't using or aren't thinking about is almost more interesting than what they actually are. When I try to think about creativity, and when I think about creativity, I also don't try to think about I need to be playing this meta now. I sometimes think about like sets that I make that could be, they're like ahead of their time, you know, like Weakness Policy, Bikini, Specs Bikini. Those sets are kind of fucking not as much rooted in the present. They're not a present part of the metagame. But if you think about like preying upon the present metagame, then they maybe will become the present metagame if they prove themselves to be good enough.
I think like with those kind of like good sets, they'll kind of always be back and forth in the meta. And you can also use like good sets from other gens and like adapt them with similar or the same mons, like gen to gen. Like the like, I don't know, it's underexplored, but I made a conversion Life Orb Porygon Z that you just like conversion Shadow Ball in Sword Shield, beats like Registeel, It's like probably Metagross. You could EV it to beat Metagross. I know Potatochan used like a reflect like rocky helmet one to beat like Metagross, but
Yeah.
like there's just a lot of things you can like adapt from like SM. Like where Porygon's main set is like Z conversion Shadow Ball. Like you can use that in SS. It's not its best set, but like it can get you a lot of like unexpected matchups.
Yeah, if you're thinking about like, okay, I'm gonna convert this to SS. If it does nothing, then just leave it in SM, right? But like, a lot of like that type of thing just simply has potential, right? If you're wanting to trick, if you're wanting to beat, you know, AV Registeel or whatever, like that's a cool niche, I guess. And like people don't talk about this enough. But would the start of DLC 2 look as it did if I didn't make Weakness Policy Victini and ORAS? Like, would that have immediately become a thing that everyone wants to use if that didn't exist in ORAS? Like, ORAS was a gen that it kind of showed up in first, so it's like cross-gen use isn't really something that people, I don't know, think about, appreciate. Same with, you know, like, Conversion PC, like you said, or maybe like, this, like, I'd say, like, SM Gara and ORAS Gara perform a little differently, but what if I tried to make my ORAS Gara, like, a bit of a faster mon with Ice Fang, or, I mean, Ice Fang doesn't do anything in ORAS, it's completely fucking useless, but if you're thinking about, like, hey, people run, like, EQ Gara, and something I realized on ORAS ladder was, like, wow, EQ Gara is actually sick, because I know, or I not even notice, I just simply know that most mods these days are SPDEF and their playoffs are weak as actual balls. So if you're just gonna throw EQs at them, they're not gonna metal burst you because you don't want to get DD'd on, right? So like EQ can kind of circle back because, you know, it has a specific niche that is not even what it is in other gens, but you know, when you bring or EQ Gara back, you know, how can an EQ Gara be useless? Let's be real. I guess that's simply an okay coverage move. It's never going to be completely useless, I feel like. Even if I think it kind of sucks. Like, there's still going to be people running Magnezone. There's still going to be people running, you know, mons that don't like to get Earthquakes. Fucking, I don't know, random steel types, I guess. And if you're thinking, like, oh wow, I want to make my Gara, like, consistent as it can be versus Registeel, then maybe you want to run fucking Taunt EQ or whatever. Like, combinations of moves that people aren't expecting can be actually, like, menaces, because they're prepared for this thing and they're prepared for that thing, but when you put them together, it's like, oh shit, dude, like, you don't win that matchup. But yeah, just pay attention to the meta, pay attention to, like, the shit that people take for granted, like, like, maybe notice, like, oh, you know, this mon, like, Heatran, people always say is a Zardex counter, but what if you just beat it, you know? Like, with Zard. Like, that type of thing that people take for granted is, can be, turn up to be some, like, easy fucking wins, and, like, you know, like, counter Bulldoze, Zard is one of the most creative sets I've ever seen on Zard in my entire fucking life. I don't know if you, oh, you do, maybe you know that, or, Bopher, but it's like counter Bulldoze because you counter Rock Tomb from Tren, and then Bulldoze like the spec sets with Ancient Power.
Nice.
That's the type of thing where you're taking in all scenarios into account, and you're also like thinking about like, hey, people don't run fucking balloon fucking Ancient Power because that set doesn't beat Zardex, you know. Yeah, pay attention to how people approach the metagame, and you can deconstruct it from there. That's all I have to say, really.
Yeah.
Look through every mon's move pool, look for mons with combinations of this, look for, like, sets that people aren't running that, like, why aren't they running? Like, sometimes you'll see a set and be like, wait, this set that I just thought of in 2 seconds, why aren't people running this? Like, that can be, like, one of the best things if it's intuitive to you, but, you know, people don't think about it, or people don't think it's worth using. Just get out there. Don't put limits on anything. Yep. Just keep building, and if you're gonna like try to be anti-meta, which is like how you be optimal building. Like, optimal builders don't just throw together 3 standard mons and then try to outpick their opponent. They try to, like, you know, fucking fish the shit out of the metagame in their opponent, you know. That's the best you can do, really, because 3-0s are actually they're exponentially more consistent than out picking people. So yeah.